Ahoy, me hearties! It's Wednesday afternoon, and welcome to your International Talk Like a Pirate Day edition of the Android Developer Office Hours, EMEA edition. You're drinking your first mate here.
Was it a late night last night?
We're here to talk about anything and everything related to Android development. So, Rich, do you want to give your standard disclaimer?
Yes. Questions asked in a pirate fashion will be taken twice as seriously as any other questions. We're wearing fashion or matching t-shirts by accident. It's certainly not planned. And we won't be talking about any future events, product releases, we can talk about future events, anything that hasn't been previously announced. So please don't ask. And that's the standard. I've already got quite a few people in the Hangout with us today. We'll just run through. I'll say, hello, Al. Good to see you again.
Hey, guys.
There he is. Is that Andrew Kelly next to Al? Can we have a little cursor on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew Kelly.
Indeed.
One-man moderator machine. Good to see you. That window. Here's the next one. What's his name? Hi, Mark as well. You seem to know Sparky already. Paul, Richard Thompson, Sparky, of course, and Tal. Good to see you all. So before we kick off into the moderator today, obviously I'm here with Matt and Nick. You must know these guys.
Hello. Hi.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah?
Yeah?
Go for it.
Should we start?
Yeah, go for it. If you have a question, let's go for it.
Please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll start maybe. Yeah, I will ask a question maybe about the assets folder and library projects. I already asked that on the moderator regarding the inheritance of the assets, because we have some, like for example, some web views, just some HTML files and some graphics or PNG files, not fancy stuff. And we have, for example, a library project with common HTML files and common images. And now we need to always copy these assets over to the final project in order to get the stuff done. But I think this would be a really nice thing to let the SDK tools do it, because it's plain simple. Just copy the assets over and do a simple inheritance. And I'm just asking why it isn't there, because it's so an easy feature, in my opinion.
I think it's because assets are it's a folder location, and it's relative to the directory space application. If you read the documentation carefully, it says that although raw assets are not supported for library projects, that raw resources are. So anything that you drop into res/raw should be okay. I mean, there's really, apart from a minor API difference in how you access it, there's not a lot of difference between how you deal with a raw resource versus an asset resource.
I had a quick look around on this one, and there is a post from Xavier from the ADT team, and basically what it says is he's not come up with enough time to work on an intelligent solution for collisions between assets that are in the library project and assets which are in your actual application project. So I think it's just one of those things that's on the list and just hasn't been got round to yet.
Okay, that would be a good explanation, because it's I don't know where there are so many collisions. So for example, you have the order of the library projects defined, and you have also the inheritance of the library projects defined. And I think because it's just a simple folder with files in it, you could just copy them over in the right order, and you're done, basically. I don't know what they really mean with these conflict collisions.
The problem comes if any of the libraries require on an asset of a certain name, and a library further up the chain uses that same name for a different type of asset. You then get undefined behavior in one of your libraries because it doesn't know, it's not getting the correct asset under that name. So if you have a chat project that has a list called blah and something else that has a graphic called blah, you'll find your chat library gets a graphic instead of the list it expects, and probably will throw up errors that you shouldn't normally see.
Okay.
Sounds convincing to me.
And yeah, I know. We could just do this in the raw resources and I'm done. But basically, you can't access the raw resources, so in REST raw, with the web view, which is really plain awful. And also, if you do HTML pages, it's a little bit harder. So in the assets folder, you can just load a web view called file / assets and so on, and then you can just load the HTML file and it loads the images automatically, and you're done. And the other way around, you would have to, yeah, it's basically plain harder to do this with the raw resources instead of using assets for this case.
If you want a quick and dirty hack, you can use a class in a library file that actually just contains the string, which is the HTML you want to render in the web view.
I know. This is basically what I want to do now, but it's basically a hack to get the assets in the correct.
Well, it's not really friendly to your workflow, is it?
I'll put a link to the ADT group in the comments for this Hangout post, and then you can join and see if there's anything that those guys can do for you in order to get things sped up and getting you a solution.
Okay, great.
Or another workaround is, well, depending on your build system, do you script it maybe so it moves the assets into the right place for you, part of your build?
So right now we have the and build XML files, and we just have our projects, and in every project we copy over the first asset folder from one library project, then the second assets folder, third one, basically what the SDK tool should be doing.
You saying you manually copy them, or you add those to your and build file?
We manually copy them in our and build XML, but of course now the problem is the Eclipse AD, the APK file built from the Jenkins build server and the Eclipse APK file differ, and it's not so easy to get the APK file out of Eclipse with the correct stuff. So right now we do it manually, yeah. So basically that's what we're doing, but yeah, could be much easier with some SDK tools update. I also had viewed there were some patches online in Gerrit before the transition to the new Gerrit server. And there were some patches online doing exactly this, so enabling the SDK tools, but nobody reviewed them yet, so it's not in there yet.
Are they in the new Gerrit, or are they still just in the old Gerrit?
I think it was in the old Gerrit.
You might want to see who submitted them and ask them to resubmit them to the new Gerrit, because I think the old Gerrit's been pretty much abandoned now.
I know. Okay. Yeah, basically I will do the hacking for now, but could be easier, also for other developers.
Okay, do we have any more live questions in the Hangout, or should we move on to the moderator?
I think we've got some more questions on the moderator from people who are in the Hangout. Paul, is this yours about the loaders? Do you want to ask that question? Maybe I will.
Yes, but I have...
No microphone. Okay. So Paul Blundell in Liverpool wants to know, loaders seem to be the new in thing to use when developing an app. Can we explain the use cases and some of the benefits of using a loader over the alternative? Anybody want to take that one? Should I take it? Basically, the cool thing about loaders is it's the simplest way to keep the contents of your view in sync with its data source. So, like back before loaders, you had to actually watch for callbacks and events regarding whether or not your data had changed and been updated. Now the loaders will take care of that for you. So you make a list view or a list fragment, and you implement the loader interface, and you say you have a content provider that's feeding data into that loader. You stuff something new into the content provider, and your list view just magically updates, and you never have to worry about callbacks or synchronization or anything like that. Does anyone want to add anything to that?
The lifecycle events as well, I think it kind of really implements well with the lifecycle, so it handles all your pauses and resumes for you, and will reconnect to the data source and look for any changes. So essentially you write less code. It does a lot of the code, a lot of that stuff, lifecycle stuff for you. So there's less to kind of maintain and debug.
Yeah, I thought they were also very good for making sure your data was loaded off the main thread as well. So it all happens in the background out of the main thread and keeps your application UI running nice and smoothly whilst the loading's happening, as opposed to you having
And
to
of
worry
course,
about
most of this we've been talking about is specific to the cursor loader concrete class, but it's also the loader framework is more generic. So you could extend async loader to do other stuff like this as well, which isn't just database related, and then you still benefit from all the framework integration as well. So it has lots of benefits.
Okay.
Or is, I think,
How are you, Johan?
nice one, he says.
I'm convinced. I will use loaders from now on. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
What's up next?
Anyone want to jump in? Anyone want to jump in with a question? Someone who just came on? Johan, do you have a question for us?
You have no microphone. That's
We can't hear you. Are you muted, Johan?
He's very good for
Are you miming?
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought I had it on. I'm on now. Okay. Hi guys. Just want to say hi. I don't have any particular thing I'm wrestling with. Well, maybe I was thinking about one thing. For in case I have something like a pop-up dialog with small selection. Of course, you know there are some context menus or smaller. How do you say it? What's the term? Well, maybe small dialogues which hang to a component and then show a little section of choices. Or of course you have the big pop-up views. What's kind of the way to go? I tend to simply go with the default selection list mechanism.
Can you give us a bit more context about what you're trying to do?
Come again, Nick?
Can you give me a bit more context about what you're trying to show?
Well, it's basically I have a couple of buttons on screen, and if I press a button, there's still a sub-selection to be done before you go to the next activity. So I'm kind of figuring out what's the best way to go there. If I simply have a small pop-up menu which kind of hangs to that button, and I think you had the context, the quick context is maybe a bit what I was looking at. So
Yeah.
what's the current design guideline on those kind of contextual pop-ups?
I would avoid a pop-up if possible.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do it in line, so it's fine. So, you hit a button and it reveals another choice below it. Somehow that could work fine. Yeah, the pop-up menu, which you're talking about, which is kind of similar to the overflow menu, where you hit a button and it expands down.
Yeah.
That's also a good option. Or another option could be to just kind of move on to the next action and default it to one of the choices and allow the user to change to the other choice.
Yeah.
So I think just trying to avoid these modal dialogues is generally a good design goal.
Okay, sounds fair. I think I'll go with that. Simply choose one of the options and go for a selection for the other options. Thanks so much.
Cool, you're welcome.
And great work with EHAC, Netherlands.
Yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about it for those who weren't familiar.
Yeah. If you have some time, I'll keep it short. A couple of user groups have found out that Android is 5 years old, so it was introduced. It was introduced on the 5th of November in 2007, and a couple of user groups in Europe, in the world, have picked it up, and we're trying to celebrate it with a series of hackathons around Europe. So we had one in Amsterdam and one in Bremen, but there's still a couple of hackathons in Belgium and in Berlin, and Paris I think is also joining, and Ankara, and a couple of others. And so we had the first in Amsterdam. We had a couple of teams simply hacking away in a couple of categories defined by the international group. And other cities are joining in as well. And there's one big finale in London right after DroidCon, where we will have well, all the winners from the local hackathons they're competing with the teams from the UK. So if you're living in the UK, you have a kind of advantage because you can simply join the final immediately. Now it's going to be good fun with great prizes. So we got to give away some devices from Alcatel. So it's pretty good. Everybody walked away with a tablet or a phone. So everybody had a good time.
Where's the best place to find out more if people want to join in?
I think it's simply vhackandroid.org. I'll put it in the chat.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Johan.
Cool. Thanks for the summary. It sounds like an awesome hackathon. I'm looking forward to going to the London one.
Yeah, all of us will be there.
Yeah, it was great fun.
Okay.
I would have to go get back to work, so have fun. And Sparky, have fun on the Oktoberfest, of course.
Dankeschön.
So
What's
have
up,
a good beer. Maybe we'll see each other there. So bye.
Right. Jason. So anybody else? I see we've got Andrew Kelly on the line. I think you've got maybe a question or two in the moderator. Did you want to ask those yourself?
Yeah, I don't mind. Let me just bring up the page. I guess the first one was to do with taking pictures with the camera. I was having some trouble getting the photos to be stored in a private area of my app rather than on the SD card. And I was just wondering if there was any special trick that I needed to do to get that to happen.
Are you talking about you want to put them in internal storage?
Yes.
Ooh. I honestly never tried to do that.
I think there's a problem with trying to do that because the camera is a separate application, so any area
Correct.
that it would be able to would have to write to would have to be a publicly writable area.
There is, but you can actually pass, when you launch the intent, a permission to say you can inherit the permissions of the sort of parent app. So I was thinking that that might give the camera app permission to write to my private storage.
You might still have to make the file world writable.
I think the grant permission just grants permission to read. I don't think you can grant to write. Can you? Do you like there?
Yeah, there's two. There's a grant to write and a grant to read URI,
And you've checked the Stack
but they
Overflow,
don't seem to work.
and there was no help on Stack Overflow on that one?
No, not really.
Wow. Could ask the question.
That's why I came to you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think every example that I've seen just writes to the SD card because that's the standard media repository. You know, it's so.
Yeah, I don't want people to tweet with the pictures that they're taking once they've taken them. It's for a game that I'm writing.
Now you can. I mean, if you only want a small picture, you could get a thumbnail back and just not store it.
Yeah.
In fact, my little demo app does that. So.
Yeah. No, I'm after the big picture, I'm afraid.
What about taking the photo and then copying it or moving it into your?
Yeah, that was my sort of last resort. I was trying to, if there was no other way.
That's my solution, but if there is I haven't used this kind of grant write permission before. If that's not working for you, maybe you can ping us a link to Stack Overflow question and we can take a look into it further.
Yeah. Cool.
Anyone else use the grant write permission? No.
Very niche case.
Trust me to find it.
Do you have any more questions? I think there might be one or two.
A couple. There was one about setting the wallpaper. I was hoping to not have to request the permission to set a wallpaper and just actually sort of launch the wallpaper intent somehow and have be able to pass an image to that the user can then say yes or no. Is that something that's possible?
Not that I know of, no.
I don't know that.
You can either send them to the wallpaper chooser or you can use the intent, but you can't combine the two, to my knowledge.
Yes. So I can register to be one of the icons inside the wallpaper chooser, but I still kind of need the set wallpaper permission to do setting.
Yeah, as far as I know. I've never seen anyone.
Yeah.
Feels a bit like a workaround of security to me.
Yeah, well, I was trying to think if there might be a way that the wallpaper chooser, when it launches my app, I can set the image in a sort of an on result, and then the wallpaper chooser can then do something with that image, like show it to the user or whatever.
If your app is trying to set wallpapers, why don't you just go and use the permission?
Well, I've been watching my Google I/O produce your number of permissions video.
But we would rather you were explicit about the actions you were going to do as opposed to working around them to try and hide the permission. I mean, if your app's
Well, I'm not trying to hide it though. I'm trying to become a sort of a receiver of the intent. So hey, I'm just one of the things, as well as the sort of the live wallpaper gallery. My app also can show you a list of images that maybe come from Flickr or somewhere like that. You choose the image from my stream, and then it's up to you to say set wallpaper as a user to make it turn into the background.
Yeah.
So rather than kind of circumvent, I was just trying to alleviate the need for me to actually have to set permission.
But you've tried it and it doesn't work, I take it, without the permission.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that where you in the source of wallpaper list? You know, so when you long press wallpaper, it pops up and says, you know, wallpapers, gallery, live wallpapers. You can appear in that list as well, right? That's apps do that.
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah. So I'm in that list, but I still need the set wallpaper permission to set the wallpaper.
I mean, the impression I got from the I/O talk was largely try and reduce the permissions that you need in terms of ones that you actually require versus ones that you're just doing as a nice to have. I mean, like AdMob is a prime example of that. I'm not. Yeah, admittedly, for some advertising, it would make a lot of sense, but it's up to you as a developer to allow that or not. And yeah, I think games are the worst for that. There are some games out there which ask for a horrific amount of permissions that really aren't needed.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, you've got a perfect kind of use case for it. So I don't think any user would sit there, see that permission, and kind of run away scared. So that's the main thing.
Cool. Okay.
So regardless of whether you're registered to be in that list, you still would have the ability to set wallpapers, right? I mean,
Yes, I've got a button inside my app that when you're viewing a photo, you can click that button and it says, you know, set wallpaper, and it just, you know, sets it in the background. So when you actually exit the app,
so you
the wallpaper is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But no, we don't know a way of not doing
Cool.
that. Okay.
You have another moderator question?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Oh, we've got, hey, Ran, I didn't see you sneak into the Hangout.
Hi, how are you doing, Nick and Rick?
Very good. Good to see you there. Hey, Rick. Rick's both of us together. He's got his Android with him as well.
Yeah, we're good, we're good.
Yeah.
Any
Actually, I got a couple of questions if you guys have time.
Please.
Alright, one should be pretty easy. I'm trying to do audio manager set microphone muted to mute the microphone. Problem is that API works on some devices and doesn't work on other devices. And other than try and see and check on all devices, I don't know how can I tell in advance what device will it work on or what, and what API should I use.
Set microphone muted.
Are the devices on the same company, or is it different? The same company as one device that works and others that don't?
I can tell you that on a Galaxy S2 it doesn't work. On a Galaxy Nexus it doesn't work. On a Galaxy S3 it does work. On some HTC that we've tested it works. I can do a whole list. I don't have the list right here in front of me, but on some devices it worked, on some it didn't. On the Galaxy S2, the US model, it works just fine. The European model, it doesn't work. Things like that. I can see the link. Let me see what they're saying at Stack Overflow.
There's one of the answers there, which is an interesting one, which is simulating a mute button on a handset being pressed.
Yeah, I see that. It suggests that works on all of them. It's unfortunate that the
It's also interesting it doesn't work on the Galaxy Nexus, which is my biggest surprise.
Yeah.
I would probably draw a distinction between muting the input for an application versus muting input for a phone call as well. I think that anytime you're talking about a telephony stream, it just gets that much more complicated.
I'm not talking about a telephony stream. Just trying to mute the microphone. I'm doing audio record. Well, I'm doing a SIP, voice over IP phone call, but that's my application, and it works on the media stream. It doesn't work on the telephony stream.
Yeah.
Wouldn't Android think it's the same thing though?
What?
Wouldn't Android think it's the same thing, whether it's a VoIP call or a standard call? It's the same APIs, really.
It's the same API when we're talking about the audio manager, but first you set the audio manager audio stream to work on whatever stream you want to work on.
One of the apps I wrote was to mute the volume, just the regular volume, but that there are some phones that apparently that doesn't work with. I remember that issue coming up when I was reading about it early on. And it doesn't really matter whether it's a VoIP call or whether it's a standard call. It's the same. It's the same things. So you're.
As far as for the Android OS, it doesn't know that I'm doing a VoIP call. My application is doing all that stuff. I'm not using the Android OS SIP interface or anything like that. I open the microphone to transfer the audio packets. I do all the G729 compression, all that stuff. So as far as for Android, it doesn't know what I'm doing with the audio that I'm recording.
The API docs say that you shouldn't be using this method. So the hack in the Stack Overflow question to get the audio manager to the platform audio manager to mute itself by pretending to be a headset, it actually is reasonable. The API doc said this method should only be used by applications that are replacing platform-wide management of audio settings.
Okay.
So if you're replacing the entire audio layer on the platform, then maybe you can use it because you're the only person trying to control it, I guess. But otherwise, getting I don't know if there's another method to ask the platform to mute the microphone, but faking the handset mute, which asks the platform to mute it, doesn't seem like a bad solution. It'd be interesting to have a look into the source code for it and see what it actually does.
And if you're in control of what you do with the audio stream, if you're doing all the compression and then sending it down your SIP channel, can you just not send it if you hit the mute button?
Yeah, that's a workaround. I just want to avoid that question because all the codec is done, in NDK. It's done really down there, and I want the application to catch whether I'm muted or not muted, to display the right user interface to the user, stuff like that. If I don't have any choice, then yeah, I will do it down there in the codec itself. I will just ignore that information. I will not compress it, and I will not send it. But I'd rather to have it done to do it just in the application layer, and first save logic from the codec, which is complex enough as it is, and again to be synchronized with what the user sees. If he sees his microphone muted or not muted, and so on. Okay. I guess there is no easy path here.
Rich is quickly looking in the source code.
Right. Okay. Can I get another one, or is there somebody else?
I've had a quick look in the source code, and basically the mute microphone calls down to native code, so it can vary by platform.
Okay. So I have to implement entire audio management system for the entire system.
Oh, you mute your own stream, so you don't send it through when it's muted.
Yeah, I'll look on it. All right.
Thanks.
And as always with my kind of my first reaction when I hear these platform specific, like it works on one.
All right.
I think London just fell.
Yep, they seem pretty frozen.
No, I'm still alive.
London drops off every now and again.
Yeah, it's the bridge is not that strong sometimes.
Have we got Sparky?
Yeah.
Are you saying that London Bridge is falling down?
We are Maharti.
No.
It falls that they rebuild it really fast, quite surprisingly.
All right.
I'm not going to say the next word of that song because calling you my fair lady could be taken very much the wrong way.
Should we move on to another question? Does anyone else want to ask something?
I've got one. We are thinking about the device, and we are thinking on doing native versus web, if you see what I mean.
Native versus web.
Web view. I mean, to do it a web view versus Java.
HTML5?
Yeah.
Read Mark Zuckerberg's comments. I think that's all that needs to be said.
Yeah. Actually, one of the Facebook guys just posted in W3.org all the problems that they had with HTML5. I can look up for it if you want and show.
One of the biggest ones seems to be that people write HTML5 for mobile assuming that it's going to be the same as the desktop and have the same processing power, and it always falls short.
It was.
Well, it's not it's not a lot of processing. It's more like acquiring information from a server and basically showing it to the user. It's not a big app. It's a small app, but it's not something that needs to use a lot of resources. But it needs, they want to make it fast and work on both desktop and mobile.
If you want it fast, use Java.
Seems like a bad week for mobile.
Well, if you're talking about run fast, but I think maybe he means write it fast.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Minimal
To write it, like development type, they need it fast, not to work fast. To work fast, I know I need native.
I would say for a quick and dirty first draft, see if it actually works. Yeah, go ahead, use a web view. But I wouldn't pour a whole ton of resources into trying to make a super good UI in a web view. It's like if you just want basic form, get a little data, display it, but don't expect too much from it, I would say.
Okay, and what is the when did WebView start in Android versions? Which API did it start from?
Ew.
Just to make sure that I'm covered.
It was in 1.0, so I think.
So it doesn't really matter. Yeah, that covers it. Just wanted to make sure it's gingerbread and above.
Definitely is gingerbread and above.
Since gingerbread holds the.
Actually, my little RSS reader sample that I threw together last spring, it runs all the way back to 1.6, and I think it actually works on a G1, and it uses a web view. So.
WebView's listed as being around since API level 1, so it's a good safe bet. The only thing I'd say is it's a bit of a risky path unless they're willing to throw away the whole app if they want to expand the functionality. There's the danger of starting off doing it in HTML5 and then you end up with bits of organic growth and you end up finding that you've written a whole app in HTML5 and you're hitting the performance barriers.
And when you turn around to your development manager and say, I need to spend a month getting back to where they perceive you already are up to, it isn't always popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was sort of careful to say, don't expect too much from your HTML5 version and don't pour too many resources into trying to gold plate it.
I think one of the biggest risks as well is it's very easy to sit there and develop these sites on a desktop browser and then kind of look at it on Chrome on the mobile device and sit there and see performance is okay, carry on going, and then when you actually move it to a web view, then suddenly things start breaking. It's something that I've seen numerous people do on the TV side, and it's kind of heartbreaking to see they get so far and then it just has to kind of stop and you have to go over everything. It's exactly the same.
That said, I suppose if you don't try to go too fancy with the HTML5, if you really stick to basic HTML, not a lot of JavaScript client-side stuff, you know, there's a certain limit on how much damage you can do to yourself.
And limit your use of CSS. There's a lot of things you can do in CSS that tend to be pretty processor heavy these days.
Yeah.
Well, you know, now phones also getting faster, so you need to take that into consideration. You know, it's quite funny that some phones are better than some desktops now or some laptops.
But you ought to see the statistics for the number of people that actually own phones like that. They're very limited, and as you were saying, gingerbread phones are predominant at the moment, and they tend to be at least a generation behind the current sort of ice cream sandwich and jelly bean phones that are around.
Well, I guess when ice cream will become, you know, the
a bit more power, but the other thing is that there is always going to be need for budget phones, and people will buy budget phones, so you're always going to be fighting against that kind of trend.
I mean, you look at some of the other companies in the electronics space, and they've figured out years ago that basically at any given point in time, you've got certain price buckets that people will buy from. You know, say personal computers, you've got your under $500, your $1,000, your 2,000, 3,000, and they will build the best device that they can build to fit that price bucket. So, you know, no matter what, you're always going to have a phone maker who's going to be trying to hit a $50 price point and a $100 price point. And so, you know, if you want the mass adoption of Ice Cream Sandwich, you've got to get the hardware capability to run Ice Cream Sandwich shrunk down to the point where you can actually put it into a $100 form factor.
So there's such thing as $100 phone. I don't really know any of those, you know, but that's for a different discussion.
Actually, this was in the news maybe a year ago, that there was a line of Android phones, I think maybe Gingerbread, that was being sold in Kenya.
Yep.
That was about $100.
Really? Wow.
Unsubsidized, $100.
They had one in the UK which was £100, right? So that was like.
Yeah, the Huawei's.
Yeah.
Now
the ZT Blade.
The range in Kenya for around $100, £60.
Well, I know here it's quite, for example, the HTC Wildfire, you know, the old one, costs around, what is it? I think it's around $250. So we are a bit far off from that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's because all the prices look bigger when you read them from right to left.
They are.
That really wasn't funny.
For that one, you should walk the plank.
Anyway. We're doing more questions in the moderator or live? Also, there's one in the G+ chat, which I don't want to answer.
Let's see what we've got in the moderator. We did that one. Loaders, we did that one. When might we expect a public release of Google Play services? Yes, moving on. Wallpaper.
The answer is always soon.
It's definitely soon.
Were you looking at the heterogeneous grid view question?
I was referring to, there's one in the G+ comments from Christo Verheer, I'll probably mispronounce that, sorry, asking when and if you can use alternative payment providers on Google Play. So, the answer is see the content policy. Content policy says you must always use the Google Play payment provider, which is Wallet, except for, and it makes two exceptions. The first one is if you're paying for physical goods, so concert tickets and like that.
That's quite the opposite. You can't use Google Wallet to sell those.
Yeah, then you have to use your own payment provider. And the second one, it says, and I'm just going from memory here, if you are buying digital content which is available beyond the application, and I think the canonical example there is something like an MP3, like Amazon MP3, for example, where you buy access to an MP3 track, and you can then access the same track on your browser or on your iOS device.
That's how the same for Kindle as well.
Yeah,
when you buy it here, you might read it on here, you might read it on your Kindle. But it also then says you must not use this to get around using Google Play payments. So you can't suddenly just decide you want to make your digital assets, whatever you just bought inside your game, also available on a website, so that you don't have to use our payment mechanism.
So it obviously comes down to our policy team's interpretation of this fairly nebulous kind of description of digital content and available beyond. And I think the key thing is if the primary use case is you're buying something and you're going to use it in the application and always in the application, and there may be some other method to access it in the browser, but you never expect someone to use it, then I would consider that trying to work around the policy, and that probably wouldn't be allowed. So those are two cases I know where you can provide your own payment provider.
But definitely, it's always safest to use Google Play payments.
How does carrier billing fit into that? Does that just come up as another option in Google Wallet next to your credit card?
More than 40% of Google Play users can access carrier billing. It's rolled out in many countries across the world to many operators, and yeah, it just comes up as another option.
Cool.
Same with gift cards in the US, and if you buy an Nexus 7, you have this kind of balance that you get with it. So it just comes up as other options which you can use to pay for the goods.
Which reminds me, I think if you're going to buy a Nexus 7, do it very, very soon. I think the original $25 credit promotion was expiring at the end of September. So you need to receive your Nexus 7.
Is this $25 only for US Nexus 7 or also Europe ones?
The UK, France, Germany, all the official countries that were supported got the credit. Canada.
Yeah.
Yes,
but you need to add a US credit card to get those $25.
No, in the UK it was a UK credit card. In France it was a French.
Oh, maybe in the UK credit card, yeah.
No, in the launch countries you add your local country credit card and you get the stuff.
Yeah, worked fine here in Australia.
Worked fine here in the UK.
So Ryan, you must have done it twice now, right? You got the replacement Nexus 7.
Yeah, I did it twice, yeah.
I did it twice as well.
Let me show you, just a second.
That's what happened. Drop your 1 week on 7.
If you actually buy another one.
Well, I got a Nexus 7, which is pretty nice. I must admit it's... two Nexus 7, wow.
Yeah, well, this one is broken. You can't see it, really. There is in my G+, there is the photo if it's broken. But I couldn't resist, I swapped the covers.
You swapped the white back, nice.
Yeah, I had to stay with the white.
So what are you going to do with the broken one? Does it still work over the screen? You're going to put like...
Yeah, it works. The screen works. This is the broken one.
Oh.
The screen works, it's just broken, and the touch doesn't work all around the screen, so I guess I'll make it just, maybe an ADK controller or a music streamer or something. I'll make use of it.
Well, they are starting to sell it in Israel for ASUS, so maybe they'll be able to fix it for you very soon.
Actually, there is ASUS importers in Israel. They provide service to the Nexus 7 right now, actually.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and the international warranty works. So they accept it. So that's very nice. But then again, I couldn't resist. I just got a new one.
That's the nice thing about the low price point, isn't it? It almost comes down to the, oh, what the heck, I'll just buy it level.
Well, it makes it less painful.
Well, it's really cheap.
Not expensive is the word you were looking for.
Yeah. So where did you buy it from?
Directly from Google Play.
But from UK or US?
US. I got an office there and cards and all that stuff. So.
I use other methods, but I'll not explain further.
All right. Don't go there. Can I have another question about some issue that I'm facing with?
Yeah, please.
We have time. I'm trying to do my own exception catcher to catch all uncaught exceptions. So if my application will crash, well, my applications never crash, but if the exception will happen and it will crash, I'll be able to catch it and maybe recover from it without the user noticing and all the stuff. And if I can't recover, I want to grab all the logs, I want to grab the system logs, I want to grab my own DB or something and send it over to my CRM server. The thing that I've seen is that when I have my own handler which implements uncaught exception handler, and I'm using the old school set default uncaught exception, my handler is being called when there is an exception and I can run my code, but for some reason I either need to rethrow the exception and then Android OS will kill my application, or I need to do system exit myself and kill the application. Otherwise, it looks like how some reason the UI thread just gets stuck. It doesn't go back to the event loop or something. I don't know. So is there a workaround around it, or in such a case I have to shut down my process and restart it?
It's probably worth saying at this point, Jelly Bean has tighter restrictions on what logging information you can access.
My logs only. I'm not looking
Cool.
for any other application log. I'm looking for my log, my own internal DB, and some
Cool. You mentioned
stuff that I'm saving. Only my information.
You mentioned the system logs you were thinking of accessing. So if you're okay with that, doing that.
Yeah. Right now I'm simply reading logcat, starting with Jelly Bean. Logcat will show me only my log lines, and I'm fine with it. I have no problem. That's great.
So how are you going to know? I mean, you're trying to catch exceptions. Didn't know.
I think London, the bridge has fallen again, or maybe not.
Oh, hello.
We've got London twice here.
Oh my God. We should have gone back to the studio, but we didn't. We've got a black curtain, but not an entire studio with us today. Yeah, so you're trying to catch an exception from somewhere in your application. How do you know you're going to be able to recover from it without having to kill the app?
First I can query the application. I can understand which module had that exception. Maybe I can just restart that module, or maybe I cannot recover and I have to shut down my application and restart. But in many cases I can recover. For example, if the user presses a button and for some reason I can't process that event, instead of crashing the application, I can just display a simple toast message or a pop-up window saying, sorry, we cannot do this and that.
Yeah, I think your app is just going to be in a slightly unstable state at that point. And the recommendation, I think you have to pass on, either close the app down or pass it on to the default exception handler to finish off cleaning up, because it's just assumed that, that you're not going to be able to recover from this position.
So that's the basic assumption, that I won't be able to recover, and
this is an uncaught exception. If you can deal with this exception, you should deal with it in the place that it was originally caught and carry on. But you've jumped from the main thread now into the main thread's gone to the exception handler, and the exception handler is now working away at just logging this and killing the app so that the system can continue.
There is a tool called Jira Mobile Connect, which is written by the guys at Atlassian here in Sydney, which is a sort of an open source thing that does exactly what this guy's talking about. So it kind of captures exceptions and then lets the user kind of leave a message for the developer stuff, and then that goes back and hooks into Jira, the bug tracking tool, and keeps logs for you automatically.
It's closed down, right? It's just a nice way of tracking the exception before it does.
Yeah, the other one I know of is Accra as well.
Yeah, I used to use Accra, and I'm just trying to improve it and avoid having my application.
Yeah, sorry, but I think the thing to do is to log it, make sure you get the details of it, and make sure you catch it in the right place next time. Just do an update to patch and catch. Because as soon as the application is leaving its running state to go into the exception handling state, it's on its way down.
I think the problem with
I understand.
default exception handler, I mean, that's the thing which tears down, right, and cleans up after you. I don't know if you can hold on to a reference of it and call it after you've been
You have
done.
to pass it on to the default exception handler once you're done to finish off, or close it up yourself. But I think the system wants you to.
They got again. The uncaught exception handler Java docs for Android actually say it's only for notification when the application's being terminated. I don't think there's any way you can recover. But what you might want to think about is you could try using a broadcast intent loop. So in your uncaught exception handler, you could fire off a broadcast intent, have a broadcast intent receiver which restarts your app. And then
I'm trying to do that, but in some cases, even my intent is not being broadcasted.
I was thinking,
unless I kill my own process.
Have a service to restart your app again. I don't know why. If we drop out more frequently, we may actually get 3 or 4 of our room in the room at one time.
Nice.
I don't know what all these dropouts are for. It's quite bad. Okay. Is Sparky still with us?
No, they dropped out.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There's a follow-up question about the payments in Google Market. Asking the situation the guy's given is if he has an existing web-based game and is developing an Android client for it and wants to allow people to purchase digital goods for use in that web-based game but via the Android app, do you see that as allowed or not? I don't know if you guys can actually answer that one or whether you should just refer straight to the Play Store guys.
Yeah, that's one of the things we would refer to the Play Store guys to get a definitive answer on.
Yeah, it comes down to whether it falls under that definition of digital content, isn't it? Which I'm not in a place to rule on.
Yeah, and if they think that the majority of people are just, you're getting distribution through the Play Store, the majority of people who are installing the app from the Play Store are seeing it in the Play Store, downloading it and only using it on the device, then they may consider that the web version is a workaround. And why wouldn't you just use our in-app payments to purchase those items anyway? Why would you want to work around it when you're getting the distribution and the extra users?
But his thing is that his primary existing game is already web-based. The Android app is an extension to that. So
yeah,
and I guess
he can choose in that case not to have any payments in it at all, and then people can buy the things on the web if they want. But he still shouldn't link back to the web version to buy those things. So it would be the safe option. I mean, if he does do it the other way around and the Play team decide that it is infringing, they can just take it down. Or he can request support. He can go through the help channels and ask for support and file a ticket, and hopefully they'll make a decision before he actually builds the app. Okay. Hello, welcome back, Sparky. Looks between Germany. Hey, we've got more dropouts then.
Yeah, it's not too often that I lose my connection here.
Did you
It's
just
much more often the case that I simply can't make it in the first place.
you just went off so you could take your pirate hat off in private?
So we've got 5 minutes left today. Is there any more questions we want to go through live in the room or in the moderator?
Did you answer any questions in the moderator while I was out?
I don't think so.
We were out as well. We just left the community up to it.
Oh, okay.
here's a quick question, Nick. When can I see the next instalment of your redesign broadcast on YouTube?
Well, Al, thanks for asking. Yeah, so for those who don't know, that we've been doing a new show on Google Developers Live called Android Design in Action, where we take an existing application which is reviewed in the App Clinic on a Friday and give it a reimagining, applying the Android design principles to it. So you can tune in every Tuesday at 3:30 GMT. And so, yeah, they'll be back next week. Do you watch it out?
I do watch it. I'm looking forward to it. I particularly like the brown and orange colouring to the stopwatch app this week. I've always tried to stick to close to the hollow colours of using blue. So it's quite cool to see something that drifted a bit further apart.
No, Roman did a great job on that. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
I think he shared a hipster blurry photo of it, and they had about 100 comments saying, "Please, where can I get the app?"
I know, right? Good designers. Great.
Well,
See, that's the thing.
We shouldn't let him have anything.
We've done a redesign of the Ultimate Stopwatch. Since, yeah.
Nice.
Since you guys didn't redesign it for me. She's done it, yeah.
Was that payback for not implementing rich notifications, Rich?
Well, not getting it reviewed, no, I don't know. They just took the mick out of my name and then ignored the rest of the app.
I also wanted to tell you in Israel they started doing, I don't know in which language they do it, but they're doing reviews on startups on Google Plus every Wednesday.
Yeah, that's Ido Green is doing it.
Yeah. Does it do it in English or Hebrew?
Most of it is in English. Like it's gonna be 80% English, 20% Hebrew. He took the first shot 2 weeks ago, I think.
So if anybody wants to watch it, it's Wednesday at 2 p.m. Israeli time. So that's basically
2:30.
12 GMT or something like that. Cool. We're almost getting to a full schedule of programming. If you go to developers.google.com/live, there's tons and tons of programming popping up every day. Keep you busy.
Right.
Any other questions?
Are you coming to Israel again? Rich, you said something, didn't you, about coming again in October?
That was for another event, and I was going to come to Israel at the same time, but unfortunately the other event has been cancelled. So I probably won't be in Israel in October, but I hope to get back before the end of the year. Travel around Europe a bit more as well. The next things we will be at are DroidCon London and DroidCon Amsterdam. I think we'll be attending both of those. But maybe Berlin, we'll see. Oh, it's DevFest, isn't it? Who knows? Yeah. We're seeing what we can do in amongst our partner work and other things. But it's always good to come out and.
We plan an AntCon on October 23rd.
AntCon?
Yeah, we can't use DroidCon here, so we use AntCon. We had one in June, and we're going to have another one in October 23rd, probably.
Excellent.
Part of DLDs.
DroidCon London's the 25th to 27th of October, so it'll be a busy week.
Yeah.
It might also be worth mentioning that on developers.google.com/live, if you put /Android after that, you can get just the Android events.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
So, what was that link again?
Developers.
Just type it in the chat.
.google.com/live. And if you want just Android, you can do /Android.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
So, unless there's any burning issues in the room, I think that brings us to our end of our time today. No, nothing going once?
There's a couple of questions left in the moderator, but either I don't know the answer or I've already answered them. And if the person who asked the question wants us to talk about it on the air, then just let us know offline, and we can copy the questions over to next week or something like that.
Oh, sorry about the problems of us dropping in and out today. We'll try and find out what's going on.
We'll try and get back to the studio again next week.
Yeah, is the video quality worse this week? We were in the studio last week. Hopefully it was a bit better there.
Well, I remember when you were in the studio, you dropped a bit less than what it used to what happened today.
The video quality seems a little lower, and blurs particularly when you move for me. So thanks, guys.
Was that predictable?
You scurvy dogs.
Why are pirates called pirates?
They just are.
Because they are.
And on that, I think you've sunk the ship.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us, everyone, and keep questions coming into the moderator for next week, and we will see you same time next week.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.